Yes. We were just trying to complete that. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up this lamp then, and then we're going to put in our floor plant, which our floor plant will be super simple. So let's see. Let's go back real quick and just check our parameters for this lamp. Okay. So we need to drop it all the way down to the floor, which we have in our dot here. And I'm just going to grab myself a ruler and line it up along this line. If you have your T-square and you haven't drawn a line yet, use that T-square. So I'm just going to use this ruler simply because I'm running into hitting the camera. And I already have enough of a line here that I feel like I can drop that down. Okay. So I have my line, and then the base, I believe, was 12-inch square. Okay. That should be pretty simple. So we want to get out our scale rule. And we want to find on it our quarter scale. No, this was half scale, wasn't it? Let me check. Yep. Okay. So I'm going down to these little tick marks, and I'm finding where my 6 is along this grid line that I have lightly running along the floor. So I'm lining this up, and then I'm going to mark at the 0 and at the other end of the scale. So I have 6 inches here and 6 inches here, and then I'm going to do that as well here and there. Okay, now I need to create a square. This is essentially running into the line of the side of my couch, so I'm going to ignore that for now because I'm not even going to see that line. Here, I am going to grab my angle and that's not the angle I want. I want this one. We want this angle, and I am going to find some marks down here, essentially, to line up my, if I get this out of the way, you'll be able to see it better, to line up my angle along. And I'm going to slide it, and I'm just trying to keep this level so that it remains parallel with all of my other lines. And I'm going to mark each of these lines out and then flip it to slide this line here. And so what we're trying to do is make this line parallel with all the lines going this direction. So all of these really light lines running here, we're trying to keep it parallel, and this line is running parallel with all of these lines. Alrighty. And then we have our floor plant, which is pretty simple. It is, I believe that it's also 12 inches. Yeah. Okay. So what we can simply do here is we can either decide, oh, I want it centered similar to how I did this. The other thing that we could do is simply, I like to just find a point where I have an intersection of these lines. So I have a line that's crossing this way, it's super, super light. And I have a line that's crossing this way. And I'm just going to put my floor plant centered there. And I just need to find out the diameter here, which is 12 inches. So I'll find my half scale again. And I'm just going to essentially repeat what I just did where I put in those dots. Except for this time, instead of going in and using my triangle to figure out a square, I am going to come in and round out that shape to be circular. Remember that when we have a drawing like this that is done isometric, our circles become ellipses. So I have this little mark, this little mark, this mark, and this mark. So right now I'm just trying to create a rounded shape that fits within those marks. So that is my base. I can then extrude the sides of this up, and I'm trying to keep them parallel here. So I'm just going to draw up, and then move this a little bit, slide my ruler up a bit. And we're not given a height on this, so it's kind of your judgment call. But we're going to try to repeat the curve of this shape up here. So right here I have my bottom curve, and I'm going to repeat it here. And then I'm going to take this curve and repeat it up here. We're going to have to do some erasing now. Let me see if I have a better eraser in here. I have one of these. It'll have to do. This is one of those kneadable erasers. We're going to do so we created a cylinder here that we can use for the pot. We're going to want to erase this little bit of the Parsons table that is coming into the pot, because we're not going to see that. The pot's covering it up. Really thought I had one of my white erasers in the bag. And then this little line that's cutting through our cylinder right now, we really wouldn't be able to see that if our pot is opaque and not transparent. So we're going to erase that out. And then we can clean up the curve of our cylinder and get it so it's looking neat and tidy. Then we probably want to draw some sort of floor plant in it. That's kind of up to you how you want to do this. What I'm simply going to do is, coming out of the center of my pot here, I'm going to put a little like stem, and then I'm going to just sketch in some like leafy fronds. If you have a specific plant you want to do, feel free to do that. But just kind of a leafy shape. And I'm probably going to spend way more time on this than is necessary because I'm not liking that shape. Maybe I'll just do like a little, I don't know, some sort of small potted tree. And so you can vary of like whether it's very curvy or spiky depending on the type of plant you're doing. But this is the fast and dirty way of just putting in something that looks kind of organic next to everything else. Then I'm going to just make sure that I have not erased any lines that I can see. And any lines that are like running through the wall, such as this one coming out here, I'm going to erase that. I think that's the remainder of our ceiling line that was coming this way. We can just tidy that up. I'm going to double check that there wasn't artwork in this one too. Name, sofa. Because in the last one we had some artwork over the wall. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at some shading and shadowing for this too. This will be a good start to it. Alright. So, one thing that we need to figure out when we are completing a drawing is where our light sources are in the room. We have a light source in this lamp. We also have a light source from this window. When light is coming through a source, it will hit on the flat planes that are below the light source first, and then it will also hit on any planes this way that interrupt the light source. So if we're looking at this Parsons table, this window spans the top of it. We are going to think of this right now in terms of value of like 1, 2, and 3. 1 is going to be, you know what, I'm actually going to do this on the paper here. You don't need to do this on your paper, but that way it's in the video. So, once again, you don't need to do this, but so we're going to have 1, 2, and 3 on our value scale, essentially. Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah. Let me know if I start drawing out of frame ever. Okay. So 1 is going to be our lightest. 2 is going to be our mid value. And then 3 is going to be a lot more shading. One thing that we are going to do is we're going to take little blending stumps when we start shading. I don't know if you guys have these already in your kit. I thought they were on the list. And when we do our 2 values and our 3 values, we're going to come at them a little bit and blend them out so that they're nice. You don't have to get all the texture out of there, but just so that the space is more evenly filled in. Sometimes I like to just do like all of my 3s and then use what's left over on this for my 2 values. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a map. You don't necessarily need to put these numbers on yours, but if it helps you to lightly put the numbers on, I would. So this Parsons table, the top of it is hitting direct light. So that's going to be a 1. We are also going to have a 1 value at the top of this plane because the light is coming in right and hitting it. But at a certain point, we have to decide on the angle of our light. If our light is coming in like directly this way, that's one thing, but usually light is actually coming in more subtly at a slant because the sun is way up in the sky. So you can just decide on an angle for your light and kind of lightly draw it in. And then if I found the other edge of the window, it would be something like that. And, oh, you can't even see these lines. Let me get them darker. So you can't really get this super wrong. You just need to decide on, so in this, my light source is coming from like back and over here. So I have 1 up here where that light, actually, I've messed this up a little bit. I have 1 right here where this light is hitting, and then I have 2s on either side of this kind of like line where this is, you can think of this as like my shaft of light coming through here. So I will have a 1 here in my shaft of light, and then 2, 2, and then these are essentially, this one's going to be a 2, and this will be a 3. The top of this is blocking the shaft of light now, so that will be a 3. So we're kind of looking to keep anything in this corridor lighter, and then the other things are going to have more shading. We're going to keep, I'm not going to do quite over here yet. And then over here, we can look at this as, this side will be a 3, a 3, and then we can kind of do this whole area through here as a 2. This side of the plant, I'll show you how to do cylinders. That's kind of special. Over here, I tend to take my ruler and I kind of lightly sketch in another, what do they call, like my light corridors to hit here. And then because the bottom of the lamp is shaded, it's going to end up curved as well. Or sorry, because the bottom of the lampshade is curved, this light ends up curved. And then it actually also comes out the top here and hits the ceiling. We're not going to worry about that too much. We'll just know that basically this is a 1, the top of this is a 1, and then we can keep everything else at a 2. So what this will look, oh, and this will be a 3. What this looks like in practice is we should have a shaft of light coming through here, and kind of a gentle diffusion coming here. So I am going to, right here, start shading in my 3 value. And I probably should have, and you can either do hatching like this, or there's a technique called scumbling, which is essentially just taking and doing like little irregular circles all over your plane. And then we will take our blending stump and blend that out. It takes some practice to be able to see where the light should go. And I don't expect you to really be able to do this by yourself at this point. That is something we work on heavily in 2100, which is the next course that you'll have in the spring. I think, have you all done color theory yet? No. So you'll do color theory next, and we'll talk some about like how light and color interact, and then we'll come back and do this shading. Here we will have a 3 on this side because this square is blocking the light here. We're going to shade that in.
Do you want us to actually shade ours?
Yes. Sorry. You will actually be shading them. I was just giving you the map. So, if you want to write down these numbers throughout, that is fine. It should be also pretty obvious from looking at the video here at the end which to shade darker. Let's see. Yes.
So for the smaller chair, the seating the seating pad, that's number 2, right?
Yeah.
How about the back of is like everything inside a number 2, or is it just?
Yeah, essentially anything through here, here, and here.
Okay.
This is going to be a 3, simply because the light source here is being blocked from this direction, and this is going to be a 3 for the same reason. But everything else will kind of keep in that 2 value. There's a lot of subtlety that you can use, but starting out with just like the 3 values of light, medium, and dark helps simplify it to start with. That way your shadows are easier to find. And here. And then I'm just going to use what's left on my, I might have to put in a little bit on my blending stump to get the 2. So we have these 2 darker planes and then the mid-tone value. Alright, anywhere else where I have 3s? The only other place I have a 3 is on this side of the potted plant with a cylinder. Because it's curved, light wraps around that surface as a curve too. So my darkest point is actually going to be in a strip about right here, so the furthest away from the light. And then I am going to kind of fade it out in a gradient towards the edges. And I can also decide to add some shading in here. So like if there was like dirt in the pot.
can make your lamp a little brighter for the video.
This is as bright as it gets, unfortunately. You could maybe adjust like your screen brightness when viewing at the video, but this is as much as I can do for now.
Oh.
I think. I don't think I can get it brighter. Alright. Now I have these twos that I'm going to lightly shade in, and then that's going to be okay. So right here we have that little beam of light cutting across this face of the couch because of where the window light is coming in. Oh, I think I shaded too far down here. I think we would get that whole side because we also have it coming. Yeah, okay. And then let's shade right there. I actually think I'm going to change these twos on the coffee table to ones right through that area, but I'm still going to keep this one shaded. Sometimes as you go, you've done your planning, but then you're like, no, that doesn't look quite right. Make a little adjustment. So okay. That'll be one. One way to deal with like trying to get this glowy look is to shade everything apart from it. We're not going to do that in this piece just because we've simplified the shading here. But if we were to do like color on the walls, for example, and this was, let's say, like a nice light blue, the blue inside this beam of light would be rendered even lighter than the main wall color because it has more light hitting it. Let's see. We do want to render some little shadows too that would be cast by this, and you want to keep your angle consistent. So if the angle of the light is here, this is also going to be the angle of your shadows, and you want to just slide it to the corners of your objects that you want to cast a shadow. And we are going to, right here along the bottom, just put in like a 3 value and then fade it out in this direction, running the same on the same parallel line to the angle of your shadows coming in here. I'm going to do just really lightly right here as well. we have a nice view of light coming through there, so you don't really get the shadow that hard. But here you have it in there. And then we'll also have it from the Parsons table. So I'm going to line this up and then just pull it down. Okay, we have a shadow. And it's not going to go very far. In fact, it can really only go about out to here. So anything else needs to be. And you can use your kneaded eraser too to kind of blot at it if it's gotten too dark and lighten it up. But that's just our very, very basic shadows for the room. Any questions on this? Cool. All right. I'm going